Hello and welcome to the Franz Van Cat interview. I'm Annette Young. The Obama camp must be breathing a little bit easier in the wake of that second US presidential election debate, given that political pundits all around seem to agree the president this time managed to perform somewhat better than his Republican rival Mitt Romney. But joining me here in the studio today is one American progressive who believes the president doesn't even deserve to have the job in the first place. I'm talking about John Rick MacArthur, the publisher of Harper's Magazine, who's just published a book in French called The Obama Illusion and hopefully will soon be published in English. John Rick MacArthur, thank you so much for being with us.
Delighted to be here.
We'll talk about your views about President Obama in a moment, but and why you think he doesn't deserve to be there in the first place. But first of all, how do you think he performed in this debate?
I think he did better than the last time, but he was a little bit like an actor, or shall I say a salesman, hitting his marks. He was much criticized for not attacking Romney more aggressively in the last debate, or in the first debate. And this time he managed to get off a line about the 47% of Americans who Romney told a fundraiser don't pay taxes and don't live off the government benefits without contributing anything to American society. He got that in. He got in a sort of a defensive point about Libya because Romney's made a big deal about the security at the embassy or in the consulate or the embassy in Benghazi. And he was able to get very huffy and say, I was there when the corpses came back, and I was with the crying relatives, and I'm offended by what you're saying about me, as if that was a response. But in television terms, that's effective. And he was just a little bit more on his game. But there was still a kind of, I'd say, coldness about him. And I don't try to psychoanalyze him in my book, really. I look at what he did, I look at where he came from, I look at his actions more than his personality. But some of my friends who are better connected in politics than I am in Washington do say to me that he is a kind of a cold fish. And I think that's still coming out.
It certainly was a problem in the first debate, wasn't it?
Yes, terribly. And he almost looked uninterested in the debate. Some people said he was arrogant. I would say it was more that he was indifferent.
He was disconnected.
Just disconnected. It's like he didn't care. I ran into a customs officer, an American customs officer coming back from Canada, who said, I was a high school debater, and he told, I learned as a high school debater, you always look your opponent in the eyes and respect him. And Obama did not respect his opponent. That's why he lost.
Do you think he will win?
I think he'll win, but not for the reasons that most people say. It's going to be very close, and I don't know, of course. But Mitt Romney is afflicted by something much worse than the disillusionment of progressives and left-wingers vis-a-vis Obama, and that is the active dislike, in some cases hatred, of him by the radical right. He is viewed as practically a socialist, if you can believe it, by the right-wingers. If you saw any of the primary debates in the spring, you know just how bad it was for Romney. And he's also a Mormon. And for right-wing fundamentalist Protestants, a Mormon is like, it's a heathen almost. It's an infidel. It's not a real Christian. So they'd rather vote for a Catholic, which in America is already still a difficult thing for some Protestants to do. As they did in the primary for Santorum and Gingrich, rather than vote for a Mormon.
Now, as a progressive, you've sparked debate over your views that Obama doesn't even deserve the job in the first place. You've written, and I'm just going to quote from an article that was published in Harper's Magazine, what's truly breathtaking is the president's gall, his stunning contempt for political history and contemporary reality. Those are very harsh words, John.
Well, his contempt for political reality, I guess, if you want a specific example, from the debate last night, the complete unwillingness to confront what's really happening in terms of international economics. The United States today is running the biggest external trade deficit in its history, and it's largely because of free trade policies which were created before Obama came in, but which he signed on to. completely. Romney doesn't talk about it either. He keeps talking about the bad Chinese and they're manipulating their currency. But the trade relations with China are such that the fix is in. In other words, if you're an investor or a manufacturer, if you don't send your jobs to China or you don't set up shop in China to produce goods, you're an idiot. And we're running this huge deficit with China. They're selling to us. They're manufacturing and selling to us. We're not selling much of anything to them. And that's the heart of the problem. And
So
until he faces that contemporary reality, we're not going to have a serious discussion.
So you think he's a sellout?
Oh, complete sellout. But, well, I hesitate to call him a sellout because given that he comes out of a very conventional political background, this is apart from his early life as a political organizer among the poor. That seems to have been a part of his life that he let go completely. But once he joined the ranks of the Chicago political machine, the Chicago Democratic establishment, he forfeited any real freedom of movement or action. And so to say that Obama has sold out is a little bit unfair to Obama because I don't think he ever had any intention of changing things radically.
And just to explain to the international viewer, what is the Chicago party machine?
The Chicago political machine is it's almost Soviet in its power. It dominates Chicago like the Soviet. If you went to the Soviet Party Congress, it's a little bit like going to the Chicago Democratic Central Committee. They actually call it the Central Committee. And they brook no opposition. You are either loyal to the machine or you're the enemy.
And this is the same machine that's produced Rahm Emanuel, the now mayor of Chicago and the former chief of staff.
Right. And Obama, in theory, once he got to be president, he used the machine, or the machine used him. They put him in touch with the big money. They connected him to the people he needed to get elected president. He was endorsed early by Mayor Daley, the former Mayor Daley, against Hillary Clinton. But once he became president, he certainly had the possibility of shifting. But he was always very respectful in the Senate of the regular party senators. And that is why we do not have serious financial reform under Barack Obama.
But, you know, you've pointed out he's very much the product of the party machine, and in particular the
Right.
Chicago party machine. But isn't it the case that in all Western democracies, for instance Australia, where I'm come from, some would describe the right-wing faction of the Australian Labor Party not being that dissimilar in the way that it also functions, that money and lobbying drives the process?
Yes, it does. Although the party leaders, I think, drive the process more than money. They are the ones who shake down the bankers for the money. The bankers who give money to Obama feel they have to give money to Obama, otherwise they might find themselves with a new regulation that they don't like. So Rahm Emanuel and those kinds of people are always banging on the rich and on the financial class, saying, "Give us money." But there are exceptions in American history. Franklin Roosevelt, an organization Democrat from a patrician background, very different from Barack Obama, obviously, decided he would use the party apparatus to create great reforms. Lyndon Johnson, and also take advantage of the panic in the country. The country was in a complete panic after the crash. Lyndon Johnson in 1963, after the assassination of John Kennedy, instead of going slow, goes fast. He just says, "I'm going to do something."
So as a progressive left-winger,
Yeah.
do you believe there's anybody in the current Democratic Party who's capable of doing that?
Yes, there's a couple of people. There's a guy named Sherrod Brown, senator from Ohio, I think is very good on free trade, very smart. He's probably positioning himself to run for president in 4 years if he wins re-election in Ohio. But the regular Democratic Party, which is run by people like Max Baucus, the senator from Montana, the chairman of the Finance Committee, or Charles Schumer, the chairman of the Banking Committee from New York State. They represent the interests of Wall Street, private insurance. They're the ones who fill the party coffers with money to run the campaigns. They're not interested in ideological competition. They're not interested in competition at all. They'd much rather go along to get along. And somebody like Sherrod Brown is going to have a very hard time making his case in front of this party oligarchy, shall we say.
John, finally, given what you've just said, What do you hope will happen on November 6th? Who do you want to see get into power?
Well, I don't have a horse in the race. I'm not going to vote for either one of them. I don't like Romney. I liked Romney's father, actually. Romney's father was terrific. He could have run to the left of Obama. I guess I'd like to see certain senators elected, like the woman who's running for Senate in Massachusetts, whose name escapes me right now. But if Obama loses, it's because he deserves to lose. Romney does not deserve to win. We're in bad shape in this country, in our country, and I would like to see a renewed effort by ordinary citizens to enter the political process, run candidates against the establishment candidates, the incumbent candidates in both parties, Republican and Democrat, and start people like the Occupy Wall Street people start being more specific. Let's restore the Glass-Steagall Act, the act that was passed by Roosevelt to separate the commercial and investment banks in order to stop speculation by the commercial banks with the money of little depositors, and which was repealed under the Clinton administration. Barack Obama notably refused to restore Glass-Steagall, even when it was presented to him on a bipartisan plate by Maria Cantwell, a left-wing Washington senator from Washington State, and John McCain, a right-wing senator from Arizona.
John Rick MacArthur, I'm afraid that's all we have time for, and that's it for this edition of the Frans van Kat interview. Do stay with us here on Frans van Kat.